The committee finds that conditions in Macon County are very serious due to activities of certain elements at the Tuskegee Institute and the Tuskegee Veterans Hospital. We find if these conditions continue to exist, that serious trouble, or rather dissolution of the county, is imminent. The main part of our recommendations today is the establishment of a permanent Macon County Committee to watch conditions in Macon County and contiguous counties very closely. As I said before, if this trend continues, the only answer is to dissolve Macon County.
Chairman, as far as the two gentlemen from Macon County on the Board of Registrars is concerned, they still insist that their position is that they are judicial officers. They're not required to testify here, and they do not want to be sworn.
Matters that are non-judicial?
As a member of the State Democratic Executive Committee, I believe the allegiance and duties of this party governing body are owed absolutely to the Democrats of our state and not to some in-state manipulators and out-of-state party dictators who, through the political device of the loyalty gag rule, would pawn the ballot of every free Alabama Democrat to national candidates unnamed and unknown, delivering the Alabama Democratic electorate like cattle into a Chicago political stockyard.
Said that they were arrogating to themselves legislative powers that the Constitution definitely gives to Congress, and further usurping for themselves and for the federal government powers that belong to the states. The thing about the Supreme Court, they seem to have forgotten that originally all of the powers of government belonged to the individual states. And when these states set up the central government, they gave certain powers to the federal government, but reserved all the others to themselves. So when the 10th Amendment was agreed to, and by the way, they had to agree to let it in before the people of the colonies would, the several states would adopt the Constitution, it was written specifically in the 10th Amendment as follows: the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
We'll see sweeping Democratic victories next Tuesday, November the 4th, as a prelude to 1960, when the American people will turn again to Democratic leadership and elect a Democrat President of the United States. The Eisenhower program of high interest and tight money has cost the American people billions of dollars.
If you... I tell you the truth, I don't feel that he is justified in the statement that he made. And other than that, I'm afraid I have no comment to make.
I think that would work into the hands of the Republicans if that's what they want.
Well, I think that he was absolutely stupid in making a statement like that myself. I think that anybody that's a Democrat one time is usually normally one to stay. I think it's something he ought to have thought over before he said it.
Just don't think he's the man that should be talking like that. He doesn't control the party anyway.
Well, I don't think that's very brilliant for a man that's head of the party. That's about all I have to say about it. Maybe we should have a third party down here.
Police in Columbus, Mississippi, picked him up on a public drunken charge. I understand he had bummed a cigarette from a fella and kept the whole pack, and the man turned him in, called the police on him, and they put him in jail for public drunkenness, and the chief of police immediately got in touch with our office.
The next would be a man-carrying vehicle which would go around the moon and return to Earth without landing. And of course the important one that everybody hopes to see is the manned lunar landing, stay a short while and return to Earth, and I emphasize safely.
Will we see that manned lunar landing in our time or in the near future?
Well, I expect to see it. I think 10 years seems to be a conservative estimate of when this will be possible to put a man on the moon and get him back.
Well, now, I haven't thought about this thing very much.
Were you aware that one had been sent out?
Oh, yes, I was. I was kind of encouraged. It looks like that the United States possibly is getting a little more advantage toward those kind of things, and it was encouraging.
I didn't even know about it.
we certainly want to continue this screening committee in the legislature to examine carefully and screen these bills pertaining to segregation. And whatever bills are introduced, we'd like for this committee to screen them. We'd like an opportunity here in this office to study them and to go over them with our attorneys. We'd like the Attorney General to examine them, and we'd have to make a decision after we'd seen the bill, or the type of bill.
You think you ought to go slower?
Yes, very definitely. Yes, sir. The federal government, the Department of Justice, has asked the grand juries in Dallas and Wilcox County to see the voting records of those counties, the records of the Board of Registrars in those counties. And I think this is another instance of the Civil Rights Commission meddling in our domestic affairs here. We thought that they had left the state and were going to leave us alone, but apparently they're back down here again. I think the thing is politically inspired. Out of 8 boats that they had for patrolling in the Gulf, only 1 boat was capable of being taken out. And the division had ceased to carry out its duties and functions as required by the laws and regulations of the Conservation Department, and the public had lost confidence in it, and something had to be done about it. And we think now that we're getting it back into operation and that we've taken the necessary measures to do so. And it's the small wage earner or the unemployed fellow that really gets hurt with those small loans. All right, I think we ought to have a fair rate section. We ought to have a criminal penalty for violating the small loan law. We ought to require that when the lender violates the law or enters into a usurious contract, that he forfeits the principal and interest that's owed him. And if a borrower is forced to hire a lawyer to defend himself against a usurious contract, that the lender should pay a reasonable attorney's fee to the borrower's lawyer for representing him. If it's possible to accomplish anything in addition for education that we can't accomplish at a special session by calling at the regular session, by calling a special session, then I would do so. Yeah. And I just recently I conferred with the officials of Sterling Paper Company from Wisconsin, and we discussed all the possibilities, all the things that they were interested in, and they didn't feel like that our race problems down here would hinder or hamper them the slightest bit in their operations. And the other industrialists and businessmen I've talked to have the same feeling. Industry is going to come to Alabama because we've got the resources and the facilities, and the people are interested in this state. And I don't think that the administration of our divorce laws in this state is ever going to be any better than the judges that we have. And if you, and of course, a great deal of the responsibility for having good enforcement of the divorce laws rests with the bar, with the attorneys that practice in the courts. We resent an interference of in our domestic affairs and the operation of the boards of registrars and the carrying out of those duties is a domestic problem. The power to register voters is given to the states by the Constitution of the United States, and it's never been amended, and it's still there, just like it was. My advice to them would be that when they are accosted or approached by Civil Rights Commission agents is to not to cooperate with them in any way, because they've got no right to be down here intimidating and harassing our public officials. They are making race relations. They are really creating a breach between the whites and the Negroes that hasn't been here before, and they are really hurting the relations between the state and federal government. Everybody knows how the Civil Rights Commission mistreated our public officials in the recent hearing here in Montgomery. They took their case to court and they lost. They're sore about it. Now they're going to come down here and try to justify what they did. Well, I think that I've studied the case and read the record in the case. I, as you know, conducted a clemency hearing. I've looked somewhat into his past record, and I've been impressed by some of the citizens who came and spoke in his behalf about the manner in which he had lived in the past and the manner in which he performed his work and his associations with his fellow workers, and I feel like that in this case that justice would be served by commuting his sentence to life. We of course keep close watch on what's going on in Phoenix City. We have highway patrol in there constantly. State investigators are in and out checking periodically. Our ABC agents are operating in that area too. We're keeping a constant watch on what's going on. Phoenix City is a clean town today, and there's no organized vice or crime in Phoenix City of any consequence. I feel like that we have ample tools, however, on the statute books to work with, and I don't feel like that we suffered very badly by those bills not passing. I believe they're useful, and I'd like to have had them. The school placement law, the freedom of choice amendment, and the power in the local school board to close a school in the case of disorder or violence, and sell the property, convey it, and transfer the teachers and students and other personnel of the school. I think those measures are good tools, and I think that they are effective, and they give us about the best that's known at this time. In addition to that, Mr. Dumas's bill, which became law, which allows a school to separate itself from the rest of the school district whenever a certain action is taken. That's a good bill too. All that together gives us just about as good a laws as exist today in any state as far as handling this situation is concerned. Well, I think that everything has been very efficient and businesslike, at least what I have observed. He would make a good Democratic nominee. He'd make a good president, in my opinion. He's a person that I admire, and I will heartily support him in his endeavors, and I hope that he would be the Democratic nominee. I personally am not interested at this time. I haven't given much thought to any particular office myself. I'm just interested in, of course, getting a good candidate, one who is sympathetic to the problems of my section of the country, and one who will work with us. I'm flattered that someone would mention my name for the Democratic nomination for Vice President, but I'll have to think about that a little bit. It sleeps pretty good, I'll tell you that. That's one of the biggest beds I believe I ever saw. Yeah, my cat's getting well, and I believe he's going to stay with us. I don't believe he'll leave. He likes it. He likes it there as well as I do. I'll have to leave that up to my wife. I don't know what she's going to have that day. We've had cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving ever since I can remember, and I've always liked it pretty well myself. Several friends of mine have been after me for some weeks to go moose hunting with them out in Wyoming, and I finally consented to go as soon as the legislature went home. So tomorrow morning we are heading for Wyoming to a place called Jackson Hole. I've never been there before, but I heard that they had 15 inches of snow there the day before yesterday. And I don't believe I'd recognize a moose if I saw one, but I'm going to go out there and take a shot at one if I can.